Well, this type of cover can pretty much be found anywhere. Some places have more of it than others, but it's a high probability there's going to be bass there for much of the year. And as you can see right here behind me, this bay has lots of it, and that is overhanging brush. Well, I'm going to talk about what specifically to look for, so what types of brush are going to be more productive than others, and then we're going to go over some presentations as far as how to attack it. Number one, the first thing that I want to look for is the depth of the water next to the brush. Is it a shallow flat right next to it, or is there deeper water access? Always my preference is to have water that drops off quickly. It gives the bass an escape route, a place that they feel comfortable, and that is going to be my starting point 100% of the time if I can find it. The next thing, the second thing I look for is bottom composition. Look for a spot that is different. So in this particular body of water, it's pretty much all a muck bottom. Well, there's a couple places on the lake where this brush overhangs a harder bottom composition. There are fish there every single time that I go to it. Now, I don't catch them all the time, but there's always fish in that particular spot. If you have a lake that is primarily rock, well, then you're looking for something like maybe there's a little clump of weeds nearby, or vegetation right there, or maybe there is a stump or a laydown under that overhanging brush. Always think about what is different. And then the last thing that I look for is there's some life in an area, specifically panfish, minnows, shad, this type of stuff. If you're going down the shoreline, have overhanging brush, and see all kinds of bait there, wow, you have got a very high percentage area. Work it over carefully. Now, as far as the presentation, here's how I like to approach it. First thing I'm looking at is water clarity. If that water is pretty clear, I'm going to start way back and make long casts. If you have more color to the water, dirtier water, cloudy water, you're going to be able to get up closer and get away with some mistakes that maybe a clear water angler can't. The next thing I'm going to do is the first place I'm going to pitch these lures is right on the edge. There's some places where overhanging brush might be 4, 5, 6 feet in depth from the shoreline out to the edge of it. I want to see, are those fish positioned right on the edge? Bass love edges. If they are, if I can get that bite going, all of a sudden I'm going to turn my approach angle and parallel as much as I can. And maybe some moving baits like swim jigs, swim baits, spinner baits, shallow square bills. These are going to really work that area efficiently, and I can just absolutely cover water and find fish as fast as I can. But the key is, don't waste too much time doing that. If they aren't positioned on that edge, if we have a super high sun just beating down, that's going to push them farther and farther back. So then I'm going to go ahead and turn, face more perpendicular, and start to skip those lures up and underneath. And the skipping action oftentimes just gets that instinct, that feeding instinct fired up, which is just super exciting to see a lure kind of just fly right in there, hop right in there, and boom, they just attack it. But also have 2 different lures ready if possible, and I like to have a slow fall rate and a fast fall rate. There are many days when that slow wacky rig fall is the absolute ticket, and you can pretty much fish it all day. But if they aren't hitting that wacky rig all that well, or you're not getting the bites that you think you should, go ahead and pick up that other lure. It could be a Texas rig, could be, I like to use a jig, something that has a quicker fall rate, and often that change of pace is going to get a finicky fish to react. The next thing to do is really watch your line. If you throw that lure up there, especially a wacky rig, and you notice it just swimming off as opposed to that bite, thump, and then they just stay right there, if they're swimming off, that's a really good indicator there are multiple fish in that area. So fish that spot extremely carefully. And the nice thing about this overhanging brush pattern is once you have that water depth dialed in, and you know that they're focusing on, let's say, minnows on a particular day, this is something that is extremely repeatable, and you can move it across all different areas of a body of water. And by taking the time to break this overhanging brush down, by looking for 3 characteristics of that brush and then approaching it that way, you're just going to catch fish, find fish, and maximize your day on the water that so many other anglers are just, you know, keep casting down the shoreline and keep moving on and missing so many good bites. And hey, speaking of hot days, if you want to watch a video that talks about 4 summer tactics to locate bass and how you can narrow it down, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.